After producing the podcast on free will, namely that we don't have any, somebody suggested that maybe a podcast on the nature of the will might be useful. So this really hinges around Spinoza's Proposition 49 in Part 2 of the Ethics, which I know I've threatened to go through on numerous occasions. I'm still not going to go through it. There's a single sentence here from that proposition, but it will get covered over time. So the will, let me tell you a little story, and this is particularly relevant to the Gurdjieff people. Of course, Ouspensky created a whole pile of mischief when he wrote In Search of the Miraculous, which is seen as, well, by some people, as the definitive work on Gurdjieff's philosophy and ideas. It isn't, but that's the way many people see it. In fact, there's one Gurdjieff groupie who continually puts comments after my podcasts on YouTube, spouting pieces from Ouspensky. So, just to give a bit of background, the idea, or the popular idea, in the Gurdjieff work is that we have no will. To have a will, you have to have a dominant I within you, a single I, a single person within you that can say, I'm going to do this, and then it happens. Of course, this is a route to insanity, but Mr. Ouspensky didn't see that, and as I've mentioned before, if we're looking for the proof in the pudding, then Mr. Ouspensky ended his life very unhappy. In fact, he was an alcoholic, and abandoned all the stuff that he'd written about Gurdjieff. So it didn't work for the man who was talking about this stuff. So, just the story. Being a good Gurdjieff groupie, I went to a meeting once with Rena Hans and several other people. And I said, I don't have any will. The reason I said it was because there was something I needed to do, and I just couldn't get round to doing it. And I thought to myself, well, I'm such a weak person, I don't have any will. Mr. Gurdjieff was right, we don't have will. So anyway, as a good Gurdjieff groupie, I opened my mouth and said, well, I need to do this and I can't do it, I don't have any will. And I was immediately shot down in flames, saying, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid, of course you have will. You're here. What got you here? So there was no truck with this idea that we need to create this monster within us that can dictate what we do and follow it through, like on the picture you see. That's typically our idea of what will is. Fighting against insurmountable odds and just keep going and going, so in our life we might say to ourselves, well, every day I'm going to chew my food, a mouthful of food, 32 times every time. And, after 10 minutes you're sick of it. In fact, you're feeling nauseous, literally physically sick. But you keep doing it because you believe that this is developing the will. This is the way Joe Sixpack might see it, or any number of Gurdjieff groupies. It's a travesty, really, that it was portrayed like that. And I'm name dropping, I know, but Rena Hans, who worked with Gurdjieff for a number of years, certainly didn't see it like that, and neither did other people that I came across. So, the will isn't what you see on that picture there, it isn't. Those people are doing that because they enjoy it. They want to do it. I have a little bit of experience of hill climbing, 2,000 or 3,000 feet, and I did it because I wanted to do it. It was exhausting, it was hard work, but I enjoyed it. And same with these guys, although they're a bit more ambitious. So there's no will involved in that. They're not struggling against something that inherently they don't want to do. I wanted this to be short, but I don't think it is going to be short. Because this whole thing of will and willpower is just so much nonsense. And you can meet people in the Gurdjieff work who take the kind of macho approach to the whole thing, stick red hot pins in your eyes every night, or you're not demonstrating that you have will, or something silly like that. There are those people around, and in fact they are the majority. And in ordinary life, the same idea is applied. If you want to achieve something, you have to struggle against all these odds. One of the men I knew, who was fairly senior in the Gurdjieff work, said to me, he was an entrepreneur, and he said, I don't struggle against anything. If a business doesn't work, I just trash it. He said, what's the point of struggling against something that's not working? Because we were talking about this thing of the will again. He said, I've started 18 companies. I've trashed all of them apart from one. And one of them is working, and working incredibly well. So, as you can see, the intelligent use of the will does not pitch itself against insurmountable odds, or decide that it's going to stand on its head for half an hour every day, or something silly like that. There's intelligence involved. So there's a bit of background. That's how we normally think of the will, as some effort against all the odds, and blah blah blah. And I'll finally finish by saying, in Beelzebub's Tales, Gurdjieff comes out with one of the most profound statements, which is we should let our non-desires dominate our desires. It's a very, very profound statement, but guess what? The Gurdjieff groupies have taken it to mean, well, I don't want to stick my head in a bucket of shit every day, which means that is a non-desire, so I'm going to go and do it. That's not what he means. A non-desire is a non-desire. The minute you say to yourself, I'm going to go and stick my head in a bucket of shit, then that is a desire, albeit coming from some perverted part of your psyche. Anyway, so let's get on to Spinoza. Now, Spinoza differentiates between desire and will. Desire is simply appetite. That's what it is. So desire for food, desire for sex, desire for water, desire for recognition, all the things that we desire. Desire to be able to do better than your neighbor, blah, blah, blah. Those desires are appetites. They're driven basically by the animal self. Our desires, once you've satisfied the basic desires of food and shelter and a sexual partner and that kind of thing, then the desires in men and women sort of go haywire. Well, unless I have $1 million, I can't strut around and like a peacock. So then the whole thing becomes exaggerated. To demonstrate my dominance, I need $10 million, and so on. But anyway, desires in their raw form are always linked to the will to life. Some desire for something that's going to affirm us more in life. So those are appetites. The will, on the other hand, is the affirmation or negation of the desire. Now, that might sound immediately like, well, you've just said that the will isn't fighting against desires. Well, it isn't. When you affirm or negate a desire, you are simultaneously affirming or negating an idea. Hopefully that will become clearer in a moment. And if you affirm a particular idea, there's no blame or praise involved. It's just that that idea was stronger or weaker, depending if you affirm or negate, than another idea. So this line, this line's worth $10 million at least. Will and understanding are one and the same thing. So the example I always give, you're out and you see, well, let's say you see I normally say ice cream, let's say you see a burger bar, and there is an immediate desire for a burger. It's a basic animal thing, it's food. Most of life is concerned with food and sex at the animal level. So there's a desire to eat the burger. So that's the appetite. But then you have to affirm or negate the idea of the burger. Now it depends. If no one's ever told you that burgers are not particularly good for you, I don't particularly believe that in truth, but let's say that we go with the common wisdom that burgers are not good for you. Then if you've never been told that or anything, you just go and buy one. The idea of the burger meets no resistance within you. You just go and buy it and eat it. But let's say you've just read a book on all the poisons they put into meat and the problems that meat can cause health-wise and blah blah blah. So you've read this book and it's a very dramatic book and it shows you pictures of people who are massively obese and pictures of people who've got bowel cancer and all kinds of things. Your body has been influenced by those images. And so when you see the burger and you've just read this book, then the idea of all those negative things may be stronger than the idea of the burger. And you won't eat it, and you'll say, no, I've got willpower. Nonsense, you haven't got willpower. Your understanding has changed because you read the book about burgers or whatever. This is why will and understanding are one and the same thing. If you want to change your will, you have to change your understanding. And as I've mentioned before, understanding is not the same as knowledge. Knowledge is, well, I read something in the newspaper about, I don't know, meat being the cause of most of the CO2, the carbon dioxide problem. Because cows fart all the time, and that creates a lot of CO2. And I read this and sort of simple glossing over. There's no understanding there. My body hasn't been particularly affected. But if I see a picture of colon cancer and a direct linkage to the notion that meat can cause colon cancer, then my body is more affected. And because your body is affected, that is understanding. This is where the Gurdjieff thing is correct. You have to have all three parts of you involved to get understanding. You have to have your emotions, your body, and your intellect, or your intellect. Understanding involves those three things. If there's no impact upon your body, then you don't have understanding. You just have knowledge. You're just a computer memory bank. And that kind of knowledge has no impact at all because your body hasn't been impacted. So, just to recap. Desires, and we have desires all the time, for a burger, for sex, for more money, for fame, for recognition, for whatever it is that you feel will enhance your life in some way. We have those desires. They are pure appetite, and they come from the animal. The will is literally whether you affirm or negate a particular idea. That is it. So if you want to change your will, then you have to change your understanding. The idea that willpower is some kind of brutal macho act is self-harming at the end of the day. And this is not about self-harming. This is about being intelligent and using understanding to navigate our way around the world. So, if I smoke now and then. I've seen the pictures of people with throat cancer and all the rest of it. That is not enough to stop me smoking. The desire to smoke is stronger, so I affirm that idea more than I negate it. And the negation might come from seeing pictures of throat cancer and whatever else, people's teeth dropping out or whatever. And until the idea of not smoking is stronger than the idea of smoking, so I'll continue to smoke. Spinoza didn't call us mental automata for no reason. And the understanding you gain will depend on the understanding you already have. You can consider the understanding to be like your database of ideas. So someone who has no notion of any of this kind of stuff whatsoever, if you start talking to them, oh, did you know that will and understanding are the same thing? They're going to be on the phone dialing 999 or 911 or 112 wherever you live, asking for the local insane asylum to send somebody out to put you in a straitjacket. They'll dismiss it immediately. They have their existing database of understanding will not accommodate this, for most people. So, there's a secret in all of this. The more you understand, the more you can understand. The more you understand, the more you modify your will. Because will is just the affirmation or negation of particular ideas. And that affirmation or negation is mechanical. So, this comes to the whole thing of free will. Well, there is no free will. Hopefully you understand that now. If will and understanding are one and the same thing, as you understand, so you will. So there is no free will. And as Spinoza says in Proposition 48 in Part 2, your will or your decisions are determined by a cause, and that caused by another cause, and so on and so forth. So it's very hard to communicate, but if you can drop the idea of the machismo type will and accept things as they are and understand that if you want to change your will, then you have to change your ideas. There isn't some superhuman act required of you. Then life becomes more kind of freer. You haven't got this inner bully telling you that you should take 3 cold showers a day, or whatever it is, whatever silly thing that somebody has suggested. Anyway, there you go. Those guys on that photograph are not heroes. They're doing it because they like doing it. And if you see anybody who's held up as a hero or whatever, then just remember they did it because they enjoyed doing it. They affirmed that idea more than they affirmed another idea of, oh, I want to be at home drinking a cup of cocoa and with my slippers and dog, and which sounds horrible in truth. But those guys are doing that because they enjoy it, and they have affirmed that idea that they are going to do that. They are automata. No more worthy of praise than somebody who's sat in a burger joint eating a couple of burgers, because that guy or woman has decided or has affirmed the idea of eating the burgers instead of affirming the idea of striding up the side of a mountain. Anyway, I hope that's clarified that point.